Hare Krishna, everybody. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books. We had a day off from reading the Bhagavatam yesterday because we had some nice guests, and I thought better that we just give them the basics, read some Gita, and take questions, which came out really nice. Everybody was happy from what I hear. But today we're going back to our daily readings of the Srimad-Bhagavatam. And welcome to all of you out there in cyberspace. We had a really nice question actually from Vilas Manjari yesterday. We have to read that again and answer her question today. Okay. We had a question from Vilas Manjari. I didn't get to it because we had all these new people here and I was completely absorbed. I didn't even think about it. So today, afterwards, we'll do that. Okay. Srimad-Bhagavatam Mahima Stotram from Sri Krishna Lila Stava, verses 412 to 416 by Srila Sanatana Goswami. And it goes like this. Sarva Shastabdi Piyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ragnadya Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabho Kalivantoditaditya Shri Krishna Parivartita. O life heir of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshakshadayate Sarvada Samasevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Marika Bando Matsangin Madguro Man Mahadana Mannisaraka Madbhagya Madananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu sadhuta dayin adini chochatakara hanamun chagada chinmam primnarit kandayosura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So today we're taking up where we left off day before yesterday, and we're on 5:18:29. 5:19:29, not 28. We did 28. The last thing we read was, if everybody remembers, this Krishna consciousness movement is therefore spreading this facility to human society by opening many, many centers all over the world so that people may associate with the pure devotees of the Krishna consciousness movement, understand the science of Krishna consciousness, and ultimately go back home, back to Godhead. No? That was the last thing we read.
That's one more person.
Huh?
Yeah, one more person. I believe that was it.
Well, I should have known. Huh? No, it's right. It's absolutely right. Okay, so we're continuing the description of Jambudvipa, and we are on text 29 of the 19th chapter of the 5th canto. Sri Shukadev Goswami said, "My dear king, in the opinion of some learned scholars, 8 smaller islands surround Jambudvipa. When the sons of Maharaj Sagara were searching all over the world for their lost horse, they dug up the earth, and in this way, 8 adjoining islands became into existence. The names of these islands are Swarnasprastha, Chandrashukla, Avartana, Ramanaka, Madaraharina, Panchajanya, Singhala, and Lanka. Purport. In the Kurma Purana, there is this statement about the desires of the demigods. Anadikari no deva swargasta bharatodbhavam bhajantyatma vimokshartha mudrekarte dikarinaha. Although the demigods are situated in exalted positions in the heavenly planets, they nevertheless desire to descend to the land of Bharatvarsha on this planet Earth. This indicates that even the demigods are unfit to reside in Bharatvarsha. Therefore, if persons already born in Bharatvarsha live like cats and dogs, not taking full advantage of their birth in this land, they are certainly unfortunate. Text 31. My dear, oh look, right at the end, we could have finished. My dear King Parikshit, O best of the descendants of Maharaj Bharat Maharaj, I have thus described to you, as I myself have been instructed, the island of Bharatvarsha and its adjoining islands. These are the islands that constitute Jambudvipa. Thus, in the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 5th canto, 19th chapter of Srimad-Bhagavatam, entitled A Description of the Island of Jambudvipa. Here we go. Coursing through the universe, riding in the waves of the sound descriptions of the cosmology of this universe. Okay. Chapter 20. Studying the structure of the universe. In this chapter there is a description of various islands, beginning with Lakshadweep and the oceans that surround them. There is also a description of the location and dimensions of the mountain known as Loka. The island of Lakshadweep is twice as broad as Jambudvipa, which is surrounded by an ocean of salt water. The master of this island is Idmadviha, one of the sons of Maharaj Priyavrata. The island is divided into 7 regions, each with a mountain and a large river. The second island is called Samalidweep, and it is surrounded by an ocean of liquor, and it is 3,200,000 miles wide, twice as wide as Lakshadweep. The master of this island is Yajnabahu, one of the sons of Maharaj Priyavrata. Like Lakshadweep, this island is also divided into 7 regions, each with a mountain and a very large river. The inhabitants of this island worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the form of Chandratma. The third island, which is surrounded by an ocean of clarified butter, and it is also divided into 7 regions, is called Kushadweep. Its master is Hiranyareta, another son of Maharaj Priyavrata, and its inhabitants worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the form of Agni, the fire god. The width of this island is 6,400,000 miles, or in other words, twice the width of Samalidweep. The fourth island, Kronshadweep, which is surrounded by an ocean of milk, is 12,800,000 miles wide, and is also divided, like the others, into 7 regions, each with a large mountain and a large river. The master of this island is Gritaprishta, another son of Maharaj Priyavrata. The inhabitants of this island worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the form of water. The 5th island, Shakadweep, Shakadweep, which is 25,600,000 miles, or 25,600,000 miles wide, is surrounded by an ocean of yogurt. Its master is Medhatiti, another son of Maharaj Priyavrata. It is also divided into 7 regions, each with a large mountain and a large river. Its mountains and rivers are pretty auspicious, it seems. Its inhabitants worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the form of Vayu, air. The 6th island, Pushkaradweep, which is twice as wide as the previous island, is surrounded by an ocean of clear water. Its master is Vitihotra, another son of Maharaj Priyavrata. The island is divided into 2 by a large mountain named Manasotara. The inhabitants of this island worship Swayambhu, another feature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Beyond Pushkaradweep, there are 2 islands, one always lit by the sunshine and the other always dark. Between them is a mountain called Loka, which is situated 1 billion miles from the edge of the universe. Lord Narayana, expanding his opulence, resides upon this mountain. The area beyond Loka mountain is called Aloka Barsha, and beyond Aloka Barsha is the pure destination of persons who desire liberation. Vertically, the sun globe is situated just in the middle of the universe. In Antariksha, the space between Bhuloka and Bhuvarloka, the distance between the sun and the circumference of Andagoloka, the globe of the universe, is estimated to be 25 koti yojanas, 2 billion miles. Because the sun enters the universe and divides the sky, it is known as Martanda. And because it is produced from Hiranyagarbha, the body of the Mahatattva, it is also called Hiranyagarbha. Text 1. The great sage Shukadeva Goswami said, "Hereafter I shall describe the dimensions, characteristics, and forms of the 6 islands, beginning with the island of Plaksha." As Sumera mountain is surrounded by Jambudvipa, Jambudvipa is also surrounded by an ocean of salt water. The breadth of Jambudvipa is 100,000 yojanas, 800,000 miles, and the breadth of the saltwater ocean is the same. As a moat around a fort is sometimes surrounded by garden-like forest, the saltwater ocean surrounding Jambudvipa is itself surrounded by Plakshadweep. The breadth of Plakshadweep is twice that of the saltwater ocean, in other words, 200,000 yojanas, 1,600,000 miles. On Plakshadweep, there is a tree shining like gold and as tall as the Jambu tree on Jambudvipa. At its root is a fire with 7 flames. It is because this tree is Plaksha tree that the island is called Plakshadweep. Plakshadweep was governed by Idmajiva, one of the sons of Maharaj Priyavrata. He endowed the 7 islands with the names of the 7 sons, divided the islands among the sons, and then retired from active life to engage in the devotional service of the Lord. Text 3 and 4. The 7 islands, Varshas, are named according to the names of those 7 sons: Shiva, Yavasa, Subhadra, Shanta, Chema, Amita, and Abhaya. In those 7 tracts of land, there are 7 mountains and 7 rivers. The mountains are named Manikuta, Radrakuta, Indrasena, Jyotishman, Suparna, Hiranyastiva, and Megamala. And the rivers are named Aruna, Rimna, Angirasi, Savitri, Suptabhata, Ritambara, and Satyambara. One can immediately be free from material contamination by touching or bathing in those rivers. The 4 castes of people, and the 4 castes of people who live in Plakshadweep the Hansas, Patangas, Urdvayanas, and Satyangas purify themselves in that way. The inhabitants of Lakshadweep live for 1,000 years. They are beautiful like the demigods, and they also beget children like the demigods. By completely performing the ritualistic ceremonies mentioned in the Vedas, and by worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead as represented by the sun god, they attain the sun, which is a heavenly planet. Purport. According to the general understanding, there are originally three deities, Lord Brahma, Lord Vishnu, and Lord Shiva. And people with a poor fund of knowledge consider Lord Vishnu no better than Lord Brahma or Lord Shiva. This conclusion, however, is invalid. As stated in the Vedas, Ishtapurtam Buhada Jayamanam Vishwam Vivarti Bhuvanasya Tad Evagnis Tad Vayus Tad Suryas Tad Uchandramaha Agni Sarva Daivata. This means that the Supreme Lord, who accepts and enjoys the results of Vedic ritualistic ceremonies, technically called Ishtapurta, who maintains the entire creation, who supplies the necessities of all living entities, Eko Bahunam Yo Vidadati Kaman, and who is the central point of all creation, is Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu expands as the demigods known as Agni, Vayu, Surya, Chandra, who are simply parts and parcels of his body. Lord Krishna says in Srimad-Bhagavatam Gita 9:23, Ye Pyanya Devata Bhakta Yajante Shadayanvitaha Tepi Imam Evakonteya Yajantya Vidipurvakam. Devotees who worship the demigods with firm faith worship me also, but do not according to regulated principles. But not according to regulated principles. Devotees who worship the demigods with firm faith worship me also, but not according to regulated principles. In other words, if one worships the demigods but does not understand the relationship between the demigods and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his worship is irregular. Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita 9:24, Aham hi sarvajagyanam bhokta cha prabhu eva cha. I am the only enjoyer of ritualistic ceremonies. It may be argued that the demigods are as important as Lord Vishnu, because the names of the demigods are different names of Vishnu. This, however, is not a sound conclusion, for it is contradicted in the Vedic literatures. The Vedas declare, skip Sanskrit, the demigod of the moon, Chandra, came from the mind of Narayana, and the sun god came from his eyes. The controlling deities of hearing and the life air came from Narayana, and the controlling deity of fire was generated from his mouth. Prajapati, Lord Brahma, came from Narayana, Indra came from Narayana, and the 8 Vasus, the 11 expansions of Lord Shiva, and the 12 Adityas also came from Narayana. In the Smriti, Vedic literature, it is also said, could we turn this fan off? Thank you. Brahma, Shambhush Tataivar Kash, Chandramash Cha Chitat Kratuhu, Evam Adyas Tataivanye, Yukta Vaishnava-tejasa, Jagat Karyavasane tu, Viyujante Chitejasa, Vitejash Chatisarve, Vitejas Chatisarve, Panchatvam Upayantite. Brahma, Shambhu, Surya, and Indra are all merely products of the power of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is also true of the many other demigods whose names are not mentioned here. When the cosmic manifestation is annihilated, these different expansions of Narayana's potencies will merge into Narayana. In other words, all these demigods will die. Their living force will be withdrawn and they will merge into Narayana. Therefore, it should be concluded that Lord Vishnu, not Lord Brahma or Lord Shiva, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As a government officer is sometimes accepted as the entire government, although he is actually but a departmental manager, so the demigods, having achieved power of attorney from Vishnu, act on his behalf, although they are not as powerful as he. All the demigods must work under the orders of Vishnu. Therefore it is said, Ekale, Ishwara Krishna, Arla Sababritya. The only master is Lord Krishna, or Lord Vishnu, and all others are his obedient servants, who act exactly according to his orders. The distinction between Lord Vishnu and the demigods is also expressed in Bhagavad Gita 9:25. Yanti deva vrta devan, pitrin yanti prati vrtaha, bhutani yanti bhuteja, yanti mad yajino pima. Those who worship the demigods go to the planets of the demigods, whereas the worshippers of Lord Krishna and Lord Vishnu go to the planets in Vaikuntha. These are the statements of the Smriti. Therefore, the idea that Lord Vishnu is on the same level as the demigods is in contradiction to the Shastras. The demigods are not supreme. The supremacy of the demigods is dependent on the mercy of Lord Narayana, Vishnu or Krishna. Text 5. This is the mantra by which the inhabitants of Plakshadweep worship the Supreme Lord. Let us take shelter of the Sun God, who is a reflection of Lord Vishnu, the all-expanding Supreme Personality of Godhead, the oldest of all persons. Vishnu is the only worshipable Lord. He is the Vedas. He is religion. And he is the origin of all auspicious and inauspicious results. Purport. Lord Vishnu is even the Supreme Lord of Death, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Mrityu Sarvaharash Chaham. Bhagavad Gita 10:34. There are two kinds of activity, auspicious and inauspicious. And both are controlled by Lord Vishnu. Inauspicious activities are said to be behind Lord Vishnu, whereas auspicious activities stand before him. The auspicious and the inauspicious exist throughout the entire world, and Lord Vishnu is the controller of them both. In regard to this verse, Srila Madhvacharya says, Surya Sumagni Barisha Bidhatru Yatha Kramam Plakshadi Dvipa Samstasu Stitam Harim Upasate. There are many lands, fields, mountains, and oceans throughout the creation, and everywhere the Supreme Personality of Godhead is worshipped by his different names. Srila Vira Raghava Acharya explains this verse of Srimad-Bhagavatam as follows. The original cause of the cosmic manifestation must be the oldest person and must therefore be beyond material transformations. He is the enjoyer of all auspicious activities and is the cause of conditional life and also liberation. The demigod Surya, who is categorized as a very powerful jiva or living entity, is a representation of one of the parts of his body. We are naturally subordinate to powerful living entities, and therefore we can worship the various demigods as living beings who are powerful representatives of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although the worship of the Sun God is recommended in this mantra, he is worshipped not as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but as his powerful representative. In the Canto Upanishad 1.3.1, it is said, Pritam Pribhan Tao Sukritasya Loke Guham Prabhishtao Padame Prarardhe Chayat Pao Chayatapao Brahmavido Vedanti Panchag Panchagnayo Ye Chatri Nachiketaha. Oh, Nachiketa, the expansions of Lord Vishnu as the tiny living entity and the super soul are both situated within the cave of the heart of this body. Having entered that cavity, the living entity, resting on the chief of the life heirs, enjoys the results of activities, and the super soul, acting as witness, enables him to enjoy them. Those who are well versed in knowledge of Brahman, and those householders who carefully follow the Vedic regulations, say that the difference between the two is like the difference between a shadow and the sun. In the Shvetashvatara Upanishad 6.16 it is said, Sa Vishvakrit Vishvavidat Yayoni Gyakalakado Guni Sarvavidyaha Pradana Chetregya Patir Guneshaha Sangsara Moksha Stitibanda Hetuhu. The Supreme Lord, the creator of this cosmic manifestation, knows every nook and corner of his creation. Although he is the cause of creation, there is no cause for his appearance. Oh, that's interesting. Although he is the cause of creation, there is no cause for his appearance. In other words, he doesn't have a cause. He is fully aware of everything. He is the super soul, the master of all transcendental qualities, and he is the master of this cosmic manifestation in regard to bondage to the conditional state of material existence and liberation from that bondage. Similarly, in the Taittiriya Upanishad 2.8 it is said, Bisha mat vatak pavate Bishodeti surayaha Bisha mad agnischandrascha Mityur davadi panchamaha. It is out of fear of the Supreme Brahman that the wind is blowing, out of fear of him that the sun regularly rises and sets, and out of fear of him that fire acts. It is only due to fear of him that Death and Indra, the king of heaven, perform their respective duties. As described in this chapter, the inhabitants of the 5 islands, beginning with Plakshadweep, worship the sun god, the moon god, the fire god, the air god, and Lord Brahma, respectively. Although they engage in the worship of these 5 demigods, however, they actually worship Lord Vishnu, the super soul of all living entities, as indicated in this verse by the words, Pratnasya Vishnu Rupam. Vishnu is Brahma, Amrita, Mrityu, the Supreme Brahman, and the origin of everything, auspicious and inauspicious. He is situated in the heart of everyone, including all the demigods. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 7.20, Kaimais tais taya rityajnana prapadyantenya devataha. Those whose minds are distorted by material desires surrender unto demigods. People who are almost blind because of lusty desires are recommended to worship the demigods, to have their material desires fulfilled. But actually those desires are not fulfilled by the material demigods. Whatever the demigods do is done with the sanction of Lord Vishnu, the super soul of all living entities. But ultimately, it is Lord Vishnu they worship, because he is the super soul of all demigods. Text 6. O King, longevity, sensory prowess, physical and mental strength, intelligence, and bravery are naturally and equally manifested in all the inhabitants of the 5 islands headed by Plakshadweep. Plakshadweep is surrounded by an ocean of sugarcane juice, equal in breadth to the island itself. Similarly, there is then another island, Samalidweep, twice as broad as Plakshadweep, 400,000 yojans or 3,200,000 miles, and surrounded by an equally broad body of water called Surasagara, the ocean that tastes like liquor. Do you know that just recently there was a sighting by one of these really radio telescopes of a body of liquid that appeared to be like liquor? Yeah, it was in the paper. On Samalidweep, there is a shamali tree from which the island takes its name. That tree is as broad and tall as the Plaksha tree. In other words, 100 yojanas, 800 miles broad, and 1,100 yojanas, 8,800 miles tall. Learned scholars say that this gigantic tree is the residence of Garuda, the king of all birds, and the carrier of Lord Vishnu. In that tree, Garuda offers Vishnu his Vedic prayers. The son of Maharaj Priyavrata, named Yagyabahu, the master of Shamalidweep, divided the island into 7 tracts of land, which he gave to his 7 sons. The names of those divisions, which correspond to the names of his sons, are Surochana, Salmanasya, Ramanaka, Devavarsha, Paribhadra, Apyayana, and Abhigyata. Text 10. In those tracts of land there are 7 mountains: Swarasa, Shatashringa, Vamadev, Kunda, Mukunda, Pushpavarsha, and Sahasrashruti. There are also 7 rivers: Anumati, Sinivali, Saraswati, Kuhu, Ranjani, Nanda, Raka. They are still existing. Text 11. Strictly following the cult of Varnashram Dharma, the inhabitants of those islands, who are known as Shutidaras, Viradyara, Vasundara, and Ishandaras, all worship the expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead named Soma, the moon god. Text 12. The inhabitants of Shamaladweep worship the demigod of the moon in the following words. By his own rays, the moon god has divided the month into 2 fortnights, known as Shukla and Krishna, for the distribution of good food grains to the Pitas and the demigods. The demigod of the moon is he who divides time, and he is the king of all the residents of the universe. We therefore pray that he may remain our king and guide, and we offer him our respectful obeisances. Text 13. Outside the ocean of liquor is another island known as Kushadweep, which is 800,000 yojanas, 6,400,000 miles wide, twice as wide as the ocean of liquor. As Shamaladweep is surrounded by the liquor ocean, Kushadweep is surrounded by an ocean of liquid ghee as broad as the island itself. On Kushadweep, there are clumps of kusha grass from which the island takes its name. This kusha grass, which is created by the demigods by the will of the Supreme Lord, appears like a second form of fire, but with very mild and pleasing flames. Its young shoots illuminate all directions. Purport. From the descriptions in this verse, we can make an educated guess about the nature of the flames on the moon Like the sun, the moon must always be full of flames, because without flames there cannot be illumination. The flames in the moon, however, unlike those of the sun, must be mild and pleasing. This is our conviction. The modern theory that the moon is full of dust is not accepted on the verses of Srimad-Bhagavatam. In regard to this verse, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, Shushashpani Sukomala Chikas Tesham Rochisha. The kusha grass illuminates all directions, but its flames are very mild and pleasing. This gives some idea of the flames existing on the moon. Text 14. O king, another son of Maharaj Priyavrata, Hiranyareta, was the king of this island. He divided it into 7 parts, which he delivered to his 7 sons, according to the rights of inheritance. The king then retired from family life to engage in austerities. The names of those sons are Vasu, Vasudhana, Dritaruchi, Stutyabrata, Nabhigupta, Vibhikta, and Vamadev. Text 15. In those 7 islands are 7 boundary mountains known as Chakra, Chatushringa, Kapila, Chitrakuta, Devanika, Urdhvaroma, and Dravina. There are also 7 rivers known as Ramakulya, Madhukulya, Mitravinda, Shrutravinda, Devagarbha, Pritachchuta, and Mantramala. Text 16. The inhabitants of the island of Kushadweep are celebrated as the Kushalas, Kovidas, Abhiyuktas, and Kulakas. They are like the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras, respectively. By bathing in the waters of those rivers, they all become purified. They are expert in performing ritualistic ceremonies according to the orders of the Vedic scriptures. Thus they worship the Lord in his aspect as the demigod of fire. Text 17. This is the mantra by which the inhabitants of Kushadweep worship the fire god. O fire god, you are a part of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, and you carry to him all the offerings of sacrifices. Therefore we request you to offer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead the yogic ingredients we are offering the demigods, for the Lord is the real enjoyer. Purport. The demigods are servants who assist the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If one worships the demigods, as servants of the Supreme, carry the sacrificial offerings to the Lord, like tax collectors collecting revenue from the citizens and bringing it to the government's treasury. The demigods cannot accept the sacrificial offerings. They simply carry the offerings to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As stated by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Yasya Prasadad Bhagavat Prasadaha. Since the Guru is the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he carries to the Lord whatever is offered to him. Similarly, all the demigods, as faithful servants of the Supreme Lord, hand over to the Supreme Lord whatever is offered to them in sacrificial performances. There is no fault in worshiping the demigods with this understanding. But to think that the demigods are independent of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and equal to him is called Ritya Jnana, the loss of intelligence. Kamais Taistaya Ritya Jnana. One who thinks that the demigods themselves are the actual benefactors is mistaken. Text 18. Outside the ocean of clarified butter is another island known as Kronchadweep, which has a width of 1,600,000 yojanas, 12,800,000 miles, twice the width of the ocean of clarified butter. As Kushadweep is surrounded by an ocean of clarified butter, Kronchadweep is surrounded by an ocean of milk as broad as the island itself. On Kronchadweep, there is a great mountain known as Kroncha, from which the island takes its name. Text 19. Although the vegetables living on the slopes of Mount Kroncha were attacked and devastated by the weapons of Kartikeya, the mountain has become fearless because it is always bathed on both sides by the ocean of milk and protected by Varunadev. Text 20. The ruler of this island was another son of Maharaj Priyavrata. His name was Gritaprishta, and he was a very learned scholar. He also divided his own island among his 7 sons. After dividing the island into 7 parts, named according to the names of his sons, Gritaprishta Maharaj completely retired from family life and took shelter of the lotus feet at the lotus feet of the Lord, the soul of all souls, who has all auspicious qualities. Thus he attained perfection. Text 21. The sons of Maharaj Gritaprishta were named Ama, Madhuruha, Megaprishta, Sudhama, Brajishta, Lohitarna, and Vanaspati. In their island, there were 7 mountains. In their island, there are 7 mountains, which indicate the boundaries of the 7 tracts of land, and there are also 7 rivers. The mountains are called Shukla, Vardhamana, Bhojana, Upabarhani, Nandana, and Sarvatobhadra. The rivers are named Abhaya, Amritauga, Aryaka, Tirthavati, Rupavati, Pavitravati, and Shukla. 22. The inhabitants of Kronchadweep are divided into 4 castes called the Purushas, Rishabhas, Dravinas, and Devakas. Using the waters of those sanctified rivers, they worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead by offering a palmful of water at the lotus feet of Varuna, the demigod who has a form of water. Purport. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, Apko Maya Asmayam. With joined palms, the inhabitants of various sections of Kronchadweep offer the sanctified waters of the rivers to a deity made of stone or iron. Text 23. The inhabitants of Kronchadweep worship with this mantra: O water of the rivers, you have obtained energy from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore you purify the 3 planetary systems known as Bhuloka, Bhuvarloka, and Swarloka. By your constitutional nature, you take away sins, and that is why we are touching you. Kindly continue to purify us. Purport. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 7:4, Bhumir apo nalo vayu kammano buddhireva cha ahankara itiya me bina prakriti ashtada. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego, altogether these 8 comprise my separated material energies. The energy of the Lord acts throughout the creation, just as heat and light. The energies of the sun act within the universe and make everything work. The specific rivers mentioned in the Shastras are also energies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and people who regularly bathe in them are purified. It can actually be seen that many people are cured of diseases simply by bathing in the Ganges. Similarly, the inhabitants of Kronchadweep purify themselves by bathing in the rivers there. It's very organized. Did you notice that? The structure of it is just so organized. And although we may not be able to see all these things that they're talking about, when we look at the world, we see how organized everything is. And when we look at a microscope, they see every level they go down, it's organized. And therefore they can do all this electronic stuff, because it's organized in a way that allows them to do it. Without that organization, they couldn't do it. 24. Outside the ocean of milk is another island, Shakadweep, which has a width of 3,200,000 yojanas, 25,600,000 miles. As Kronchadweep is surrounded by its own ocean of milk, Shakadweep is surrounded by an ocean of churned yogurt, as broad as the island itself. In Shakadweep, there's a big shaksha tree, from which the island takes its name. This tree is very fragrant. Indeed, it lends its scent to the entire island. Text 25. The master of this island, also one of the sons of Priyavrata, was known as Medatiti. He also divided his island into 7 sections, named according to the names of his own sons, whom he made the kings of that island. The names of those sons are Purvajava, Manujava, Pavamana, Durmanika, Dumranika, Chitrarepa, Bahurupa, and Vishwadara. After dividing the island and situating his sons as its rulers, Medatiti personally retired to fix his mind completely upon the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead. He entered a forest suitable for meditation. 26. For these lands also there are 7 boundary mountains and 7 rivers. The mountains are Ishana, Urushringa, Balabhadra, Shatakeshwara, Sahasrasrota, Devapala, and Mahanasa. The rivers are Anaga, Ayurda, Ubayasprishti, Aparajita, Panchapadi, Sahasrashruti, and Nijadriti. Text 27. The inhabitants of those islands are divided into 4 castes: Ritavrata, Satyavrata, Dhanavrata, and Anuvrata, which exactly resemble Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. They practice pranayama and mystic yoga, and in trance they worship the Supreme Lord in the form of Vayu. Text 28. The inhabitants of Shakadweep worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the form of Vayu in the following words. O Supreme Person, situated as the Super Soul within the body, you direct the various actions of the different airs, such as prana, and thus you maintain all living entities. O Lord, O Super Soul of everyone, O Controller of the cosmic manifestation, under whom everything exists, may you protect us from all dangers. Purport. And through the mystic yoga practice called pranayama, the yogi controls the airs within the body to maintain the body in a healthy condition. In this way, the yogi comes to the point of trance and tries to see the super soul within the core of his heart. Pranayama is the means to attain samadhi, trance, in order to fully absorb oneself in seeing the Supreme Lord as Antaryami, the super soul within the core of the heart. Text 29. Outside the ocean of yogurt is another island known as Pushkaradweep, which is 6,400,000 yojanas, 51,200,000 miles wide, twice as wide as the ocean of yogurt. It is surrounded by an ocean of very tasteful water, as broad as the island itself. On Pushkaradweep, there is a great lotus flower with 100 million pure golden petals, as effulgent as the flames of fire. That lotus flower is considered the sitting place of Lord Brahma, who is the most powerful living being, and who is therefore sometimes called Bhagavan. Text 30. In the middle of that island is a great mountain called Manasotara, which forms the boundary between the inner side and the outer side of the island. Its breadth and height are 10,000 yojanas, 80,000 miles. On that mountain, in the four directions, are the residential quarters of demigods such as Indra. In the chariot of the sun god, the sun travels on the top of the mountain in an orbit called Samvatsara, encircling Mount Meru. The sun's path on the northern side is called Uttarayana, and his path on the southern side is called Dakshinayana. One side represents a day for the demigods, and the other represents their night. Purport. The movement of the sun is confirmed in the Brahma Samhita 552. Yasyagya Brahmati Sam Pritakala Chakraha. The sun orbits around Mount Sumeru for 6 months on the northern side and for 6 months on the southern. This adds up to the duration of a day and night of the demigods in the upper planetary systems. Text 31. The ruler of this island, the son of Maharaj Priyavrata, named Bitihotra, had 2 sons named Ramanaka and Dataki. He granted the 2 sides of the island to these 2 sons, and then personally engaged himself in activities for the sake of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, like his elder brother, Medatiti. For the fulfillment, 33, for the fulfillment of material desires, the inhabitants of this tract of land worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead as represented by Lord Brahma. They offer prayers to the Lord as follows. Text 33. Lord Brahma is known as Karma Maya, the form of ritualistic ceremonies, because by performing ritualistic ceremonies, one may attain his position, and because the Vedic ritualistic hymns become manifested from him, he is devoted to the Supreme Personality of Godhead without deviation, and therefore in one sense, he is not different from the Lord. Nevertheless, he should be worshipped not as the monists worship him, but in duality. One should always remain a servitor of the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Worshipable Deity. We therefore offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Brahma, the form of manifest Vedic knowledge. And one more purport. In this verse, the word karma mayam, obtainable by the Vedic ritualistic system, is significant. The Vedas say, Swadharma nishta shatajanma bhi puman bidin chatam iti. One who strictly follows the principles of Varnashram Dharma for at least 100 births will be rewarded with the post of Brahma. Strictly means without making one mistake. 100 births, no mistakes. Then you can become a Brahma. It is also significant that although Lord Brahma is extremely powerful, he never thinks himself one with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He always knows that he is an eternal servitor of the Lord. Because the Lord and the servant are identical on the spiritual platform, Brahma is herein addressed as Bhagavan. Bhagavan is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. But if a devotee serves him with full faith, the meaning of the Vedic literature is revealed to him. Therefore, Brahma is called Brahmalinga, which indicates that his entire form consists of Vedic knowledge. Hare Krishna. We'll end for that for today. 2034. Okay, let's answer. Let's answer Vilas Manjari's question from yesterday.
Okay, I'll read it from my phone.
Yes. Vilas Manjari, if you're here live, we're going to answer the question that you asked yesterday that we missed because we had so many guests and it was just too ecstatic and I couldn't remember what to do. Can you find it?
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to speak it into the microphone?
Okay. Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for your explanation of the soul and material creation. Regarding the soul being compared to 1,000th part of the tip of a hair, does this refer to the soul only in the conditioned state? What happens to the original form of the soul when it enters material energy? And what happens when it returns to the spiritual nature? Is there a transformation to the form of the soul?
It's like, it's likened to a kind of sponge. That when all the water's out, it becomes very small. And then when you put water in it, it expands itself. That's the example. I used the example yesterday that it's like compression of knowledge. So what happens is when the soul enters into the material world from the spiritual world, its form is atomized. It's reduced in size until it's very small, that size. And then when the soul leaves, as long as it's in the material world, it stays that size. And when it leaves the body, when it's eligible to go back to the spiritual world, then it regains its original form. And it enters back into the spiritual world instantaneously. And as I said yesterday, like when you're waking up from a dream.
I have a question.
You have a question?
Yeah.
Shoot.
Okay.
Speak clearly, slowly, like you're standing in front of an audience and trying to make them all hear nicely.
Okay.
Very good.
If while in the material world,
There you go.
if while in the material world, the nature of the human being is to commit mistakes, it seems kind of contradictory to say that a living entity who wants to take the post of Brahma must commit no mistakes for 100 births. How is that even possible if the nature is to commit mistakes?
The nature isn't, it's not the nature that has a nature to commit mistakes. It's the soul who is perfect, conditioned by that nature.
What do you mean conditioned by that nature?
When the nature is influencing the soul, it influences the soul to make mistakes.
But that can even happen to liberated souls.
Yeah, any soul can make a mistake. That's why Lord Brahma is very, very rare. There's only one Lord Brahma in the whole universe.
Is that a jiva?
Yeah. But sometimes there is no Brahma or no Jiva to take the part of Brahma in a universe. And then Krishna takes that form himself. So sometimes it's Lord Brahma, sometimes it's Lord Shiva, sometimes it's Krishna, excuse me. But most of the time it is Jiva. But in order to get that form, and that's why it is so special, is because, even in the beginning of our universe, Lord Brahma made a mistake. Right in the beginning, before he heard the Bhagavatam and became a pure devotee, he made a mistake and got lusty after his daughter. And then his sons corrected him very respectfully. My dear father, no one has ever done this before. This is not very good. You should stop it. And then because Lord Brahma's body is not like our body. It looks like our body, but it is made of different, subtle energy, more subtle. And so therefore he cast off his body, but not die. He didn't die. But he's like when you change your mind, you have a mind thing, you're set in your mind to do something, and you're about to do something wrong, and your friend comes and says, I think that's not so good. And you say, okay, and then you change your mind and you don't do it. It's kind of like that, except that Brahma's body is so subtle, it's like changing his body. Welcome to the club. Yes, Bhakta Marcus. Bless us with your question.
Hare Krishna, thank you for the reading. Could you please explain the forms of these different islands that we were reading about? Do they exist surrounding our universe? Are they independent spheres outside of our universe? How do they look? Like, how are they formed?
Well, the forms are being described. They are as they are described. But the question is, how can you see them?
So they exist within our universe?
Yes.
No.
Not only that, these are Bor Bhuva Swa. This Bhuvar. This is the Bhuvar planetary systems. It's in the middle of the universe. Bur, Bhuvar, Swar. Within the Bhuvar system, there's the earth, and then there's other heavenly varshas around the earth, and then there's these islands which are kind of above it, in between the Swarga planets and our planet. Actually, Priyavrata Maharaj's, if you remember, we already heard about this once, that the wheels of the chariot of Priyavrata, when it was circling around, made these oceans. These things are obviously beyond our conception, beyond our capacity to visualize how that's happening because of our conditioning. We're very tiny, and we're conditioned by 3 dimensions. And even now, even in this, as we said yesterday, you can't, there's so many things going on that you can't see. Even in this room, what to speak of, between here and other planets. So many things are going on that you can't see. And they can't see it even if they extend their material senses by it, because they still have to look through their extended senses through a radio telescope or electron microscope to see things very small that they can't see. But still they're looking through their imperfect eyes, so they can't actually see it completely and properly. So there's only one way to find that out, and that's to become completely self-realized. But even before we attain that stage, if we keep hearing the Bhagavatam with faith, even if we can't believe it, or not that you can't believe it, it's beyond, it's inconceivable. Inconceivable doesn't mean you can't conceive of it at all, but it means no one can conceive of it completely. That's the definition, Vedic definition of inconceivable. So, as I was saying yesterday, Sariputta, my dear godbrother, who used to visit me in Spain when I was there, we were very good friends, and it was a complete heart-wrenching tragedy when he left his body, young, not so old. And he was a genius. He had his PhD in mathematics, but he was not just an ordinary person. He was like a Einstein type of person. He had all of these ideas, and he was crunching numbers, and he was making videos of the orbits of the planets according to the Vedic descriptions and according to the scientists, the material scientists, the astronomers, and persons of that science, branch of science, and the Veda, the Jyotish Vedas, which describe the planets also and their movements and how they all work, how it all works together. And he was making all kinds of correlations. He found that the planets, the way they orbit, what they look like physically, if you were to step back and look at how they orbit, and the orbits that are described in this scripture and in the Jyotish, they're very similar. Even though it sounds completely different, but when you actually analyze the whole thing, they're very similar. I can't give you much information about that. I'm not myself, a scientist of that caliber, but he was really going deep, and he was likening the size of the shape and the description of this Jambudvipa, to what they call the solar. There's a name for the path, something like that. And there's also a sphere, a universal sphere, because according to our astronomers, the scientific astronomers, the planets are more or less clustered in the center and having orbits around like this. And they say around the sun, but everything is done from geocentric position, because we're standing on the Earth. So when we look at it, it looks different than what the astronomers say it is. In the Vedas, it says the same as when we're looking for this from this planet. So if you were to expand the equator, imaginary expansion of the equator, to a point where it becomes the equator of a sphere, then the stars, the nakshatras, are fixed, and they're all moving together. Right? They're all moving together. And the planets are moving separately in their orbits. And the sun is moving around the whole thing. And that's what we're going to hear about this, the next verse. The next verses will explain this, how the sun rotates around the universe, creating night and day and all these things.
And so then what's the classification of what we call the sun in our solar system?
Same.
The same?
It's a matter of, if you're standing on the sun and looking from there, you see one thing. And if you're standing on the earth and looking at it, you see another thing. This is very interesting, because this is another, I don't know if I can explain this exactly, because it's been a while since I've heard it, but Sariputta explains this. There's a verse when it's talking about the movements of the sun, it seems like the planets are sometimes going in one direction and another direction. They call it in astrology retrograde. But this is the thing. If you were standing in South India, looking south, and you trace the movement of the sun, it would be going from left to right. Huh? West, east to west. East to west, left to right. You're standing south. But if you could see the stars all day long, 24 hours, you'd see that they were looking like they were all moving together in relationship to the sun. And therefore the sun looks, from that perspective as if it's going right to left. So the movements of the sun look different from depending on how you're looking at it, from the perspective you're looking at it through. And the example is given that if you had a potter's wheel, the potter's wheel's moving, and then there's some insects, some ants or something moving on the potter's wheel. Yeah. So sometimes the potter's wheel is going around this way, and the ants are going the same speed around. It looks like they're standing still. And if they're going slower, then they're going this way. And if they're going faster, they're going this way. So like that, there's many angles of vision that you can look at all of this. And to have that kind of vision means you have to have expanded knowledge. So Sariputta was a very deep person, and he could read all these things and research the Jyotish Shastra and this Shastra and the Bhagavatam, and kind of try to put it all together and reconcile all the things from the verses themselves in these various scriptures. And on top of that, the scientific explanation. And he was starting to get it. It was it's amazing. There's 3 lectures which he gives, which I'm just giving a very, very rudimentary explanation of, because I'm not a scientist on that level. But you can go to the Sariputta, what is it called? Sariputta Digital. Sariputta Digital. Huh?
I looked it up at some point. If you just put in Sariputta Digital, it comes up.
Then it comes up.
Yeah.
It's on YouTube.
Yeah.
Oh, channel.
It's a channel.
Channel. It's a Sariputta Digital Channel. That's what it is.
Or you can search Dr. Richard L. Thompson.
Sariputta is easier. You can do either if you like. It's up to you. So he can give you a deeper understanding of these things and how there is a possibility to reconcile it. But to actually reconcile it to your satisfaction, you have to have a certain level of intelligence and education to be able to even understand it, which is not very much hope for us to do that in this life. So better we take out of faith, we hear Shukadev Goswami and the very elevated authorities, we don't have those tendencies to make mistakes. Because liberated souls tend not to make mistakes. But any soul can make a mistake. And that's why Brahma made that one mistake. In this lifetime of Brahma, he made one mistake. Before he heard the Bhagavatam. Then after he heard the Bhagavatam, he didn't make a mistake after that. But still, Krishna bewildered him, so that he tried to test Krishna, and he got enlightened by Krishna as to. So even he can make a mistake. Anybody except for Krishna can make a mistake. Therefore, you have to be very special to go through 100 lifetimes and not make a mistake. What else? Yes,
So
Mataji.
there is a ocean of milk ocean, and there is a ocean of yogurt is another island known as Pushkara Dwip. So it's a big island. It's oceans of island, but it says on Pushkara Dwip there is a great lotus flower with 100 million pure golden petals, as effulgent as the flames of fire. That lotus flower is considered the sitting place of Lord Brahma, who is the most powerful living being and who is therefore sometimes called Bhagavan. So it's like a biggest flower with 100 million petals.
And that's not even the original one. You know, that's one of Brahma's sitting places. His original one is at the top of the universe, in Satyaloka. This is not Satyaloka, this is describing Bhuvarloka. Just like a big man will have, you know, his office, and he have a, you know, a summer place and another place like that. These big demigods, they have different places. They have places on top of Mount Mandara or Sumeru. They have places on top of Mount Sumeru. They have a place here, they have a place on the top of the universe. Different places where they reside and go to sport, have a good time, I guess. See the different living beings that are in these different places.
And another person, Bhagavan is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, but if a devotee serves him with full faith, the meaning of the Vedic literature is revealed to him. Therefore, Brahma is called Brahmalinga,
Yeah,
which indicates that his entire form consists of Vedic knowledge.
yeah.
So it's called Brahmalinga.
Brahmalinga means the form of Brahma. It means that the Brahma's form is created of the Vedic knowledge. Brahma's form is not like our form. It's not as transcendental as Krishna's form, but it's almost, because he's a guna avatar of Krishna. But his form is tinged with mode of passion, which gives him the impetus or the tendency to want to create mode of passion. And Lord Shiva, although they're both transcendental, but they have bodies, their bodies touch the mode of ignorance. They're not influenced by it, but they have something to do with it. They manage it. They're the managers of the modes of nature. Just like when you hear these different places where the people who live there are worshipping, you know, Agni as God. They're worshipping the demigod. They're worshipping fire. They're worshipping air. They're actually worshipping the demigod of those elements, because each one of the elements have personified demigods, which manage the distribution of those resources around the universe. And therefore, when you see the human beings becoming more and more sinful, then the distribution of those elements become disrupted. Therefore, you have all this climate change and catastrophes that are about to happen. They already are happening. It'll happen more and more. You look familiar. Haven't I seen you somewhere before? Art. Did I get it right? Art. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. Nice to be seen. I had to help somebody. Call me here. I wanted to be here a little earlier, but I'm glad you guys are still here.
Things happened. It's very good to see you.
Likewise.
We're all feeling, all of us have mentioned it, we're all feeling some kinship, kindred soul.
Oh yeah. I was thinking about this last night, like in the shower getting ready. Even when he put this on, I put this in the shower. Watched it, let it dry, put it on. It's energy.
You're getting the idea. Getting the idea. Yeah, we're, you know, all of us, we weren't born like this. We grew up in this country and went through so many things.
I agree.
But the fact is, at least I can't speak for everybody, but a lot of devotees that I know who have become very serious devotees and leaders in our movement, they all say the same thing. Their whole life they didn't fit in quite. they were always trying to fit in where we couldn't quite. And therefore, when we started to hear from Prabhupada, we understood, hey, we've been doing this before. You know, some of us, when we met Prabhupada, as soon as we touched the book, we just joined. It was mystical, you know. Some came and then took a little longer, you know, to come and join, but the principle is the same. We're looking for something, you know. We've been here before, we've been looking, and when you get to a point where you've heard, when you've accumulated in your heart enough experience, it's like a subtle bank balance that's just growing. You know, and all of a sudden, when you get enough balance, then you start to wonder, wait a second, why is this happening? Why is that happening? Whereas most people don't even think like that. They just go on. They get born in a place and they get told what to do, and they do it, and they go, and then they die, not knowing anything, not looking, not searching.
Pretty foolish.
Huh?
Pretty foolish.
Yeah.
Losing the sound. That book. I was reading it today. I'm working on remembering the song I learned yesterday. With you.
The Hare Krishna mantra.
I got it now.
Nice.
Yeah. I think I saw you a few times before coming here, before waiting on my mother.
To tell everyone out in cyberspace what's happening, Bhaktam Art just came in. He was here for the first time yesterday, and he's come back to visit. And there he is.
Peace. Peace and light. Man,
You got any questions today?
questions? Questions. Questions. Definitely got some questions, huh? On how yourself is talking. Questions. I like what. I just been thinking like right now, like I'm being like getting more clarity, like just like a little bit more clarity on like what I'm supposed to be doing, as far as like with my gifts, and but it's like it's a test. It's like a test. You have to like give in to your higher self.
Yeah, we want everybody.
Today.
Go ahead.
Yeah, like even today, like I try to take some photos for a good brother that I'm working on a project,
Mm.
and we were here yesterday too. While we were here yesterday, I was able to see PK, and we was talking, and the energy was like, man, this sounds like home, it sounds like familiar, so.
There you go. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
Sounds very familiar. Because you see, we're all souls. I mean, in one sense, we're all the same. But our bodies are different, but our soul is the same, made of the same energy and the same. We want to contribute. We want to do something to help. We want to do something to serve.
Mm-hmm.
And when we come, as our consciousness elevates, then we'll want to serve a higher principle. First we just want to serve our family, and then we want to serve our friends, and we want to serve our community, then we want to serve our nation, and we want to serve the world, and we want to serve all living beings. And eventually it comes to wanting to serve God, because He's the source of everything. And if we learn the art of actually using that service mood, that service spirit, the desire to serve and to be of use, to contribute something positive to for the benefit of others, to help them.
Yeah, that's what I've been tested with too. Like even with my gifts and not, not being attached to like monetary,
Yeah.
To the monetary, to the money and stuff like that, but like really working on projects that are like of great value, and just bigger than myself.
Yeah.
And you said something yesterday that really hit me too. Like you were saying something like when you do things for Krishna, good is added to you. So that's why I've really just been, focusing my mind on even more, just really,
Yeah.
really surrendering to that, like really just like, and it's like, man, this project I'm working on, it's crazy. Like it's gonna be like it's like, man, we're here. It led me here too, so it's like the synchronicity is like on point. So I'm in for it. I'm in for the ride. So that's why I had to come back today. Like come back again, cause I know you guys are probably like ending soon. I wanted to like hurry up and get in before like it end, cause I was like, no, I wanted to like also help him, cause it's a good thing too when you helping. It's not like I'm wasting time, like I'm not being
There you
a
go.
servant. It's still service, so that still counts. But I still wanted to get in before you guys, like, So
Well, we're glad you did.
I'm glad.
We're glad you came back to see us. We're hoping you come back again.
So you have Sunday, right?
Huh?
Yeah, Sunday.
Every day.
So 4:30.
4:30 every day, 7 days a week.
Alright.
And then we have this reading every day on weekdays, 6:30 in the evening, and Saturday and Sunday, 4:30.
4:30.
Yeah. And in between, we got a lot of other things we do. Full program of service.
Okay. Cool. Man, glad I came, man. It was like, man, I don't want to turn them down because I know we're working and I can just feel the energy building. But at the same time, let's stay over here in this area again because it's like, I'm trying to go to the temple after, so it's like, it all worked out. Cool.
Nice.
Yeah. So what chapters did you guys read from today?
We read from the 5th canto of the Srimad-Bhagavatam today.
So that was,
Yeah. Yeah.
When I was
We were reading from that today.
oh yeah, somebody put a cup on this. Not it's the same book. No, I seen this book yesterday, but it had this like,
You took this front cover off.
yeah, front cover. That's the same one. Yeah, man. It's cool, like, it's cool. Energy be like amazing when I come in. Like, I don't be wanting to leave, like, bro. But I took it with me yesterday and everything changed, like, even the person I stayed with, like, his energy was like on a, I was like, good. It was like positive. He was like, man, I got some good news, man. Guess what happened today? I was like, all right, cool. And he was like, he seen me with this on. He was just like, man, oh man, I already know what's going on, man. So I was like, cool.
But it just come back from Hawaii? What's going on? No. Just came back from vacation? No.
Man. Divine grace. That's what mercy he was telling me about today. I was like, man, it's just like, yeah.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Right,
That
yeah.
everybody has a little bit of it. Everybody
Man.
everybody has a little bit of it. If you get into this association and stay in this association, you gradually wake up.
Yeah, it's levels. That's why, like, I've been given like a guru per se, or like a teacher. He stays in Baltimore, but like it's something in the good book. It talks about what dealing with wisdom. It speaks on like a wise man won't reject like a good counseling. Like even this right here is like this is counseling. Like, so if you're wise, you wouldn't neglect it.
If you're honest
too.
the definition of honesty is when you hear something that's true, you can accept it.
Yeah.
That's what honesty is. If you're not honest, and if you're not sincere, And if you're envious, then you can't hear.
Yeah.
You can't understand what we're talking about. But if you're
Oh, yeah, that's true.
if you're not envious of others, especially of God, and if you're honest, and if you're sincere, then you can hear. By hearing, then you understand. But the tendency to hear from superior sources and accept when you hear something that's true, then that removes doubts. And doubts are like ballast that keeps, like a balloon. You know, they have these sandbags in a balloon called ballast. And when they want to go up, they toss off a sandbag and they go up, toss up, and then they go up more. So the doubts are like that. As you remove doubts and become clear, to be able to see through the eyes of this knowledge, the Veda, then you go up. And the more you assimilate the knowledge, you can see the world through and yourself through the eyes of that knowledge. Just like I got glasses, when I take them off, I see a little blurry. I look through this and I see clear. So knowledge is like that. Transcendental knowledge is like that. It isn't a sentiment. It isn't that you just say a sound and then, sentimentally, you have to, we have to wake up.
Yes. Yep, this level's still awakening. I had some, I believe all of us had some awakeness just to be up here. But then, there's
That's a human body.
Yeah, it's
Human body. Tato Brahma Jigyasa. The human body is meant to understand, is meant to inquire about truth. And the people out there that are not looking, they haven't actually achieved the human form yet. They're still in an animal form. They look like a human form. But in a Tato Brahma now, when you hear this knowledge and you actually get attracted and you want to know and you want to do the needful to get to know more, then you've achieved the human form. That's what the human form of life is. The quest for knowledge and understanding about ourselves and the world, and etc., etc., etc. God. But there's so much confusion in the world now because there's so much speculation going on. People are changing it with their speculative reasoning, and they're changing the actual laws or disrupting the natural laws. That's why the weather is changing. It's getting really bad. It's getting really not regular. Yeah, yeah. It used to be very logical. We were just reading this section, which is describing the topography and the cosmology of the universe according to the Vedas, and it's very organized. It's completely organized. Each layer of organization, like when they look in an electron what is it called? Microscope. Thank you. Microscope. Each level they go down, they see something organized, and they don't see chaos. There's organization everywhere. We just came to spring, and we were looking around, and there's no, leaves on the trees, and all of a sudden, you woke up, you look out, there's leaves on the tree, and it's like, hey, and how that's working? It's like, that just doesn't happen by accident, No accidents.
No. Divine.
Huh?
It's divine.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah, I was getting into this book earlier a little bit. I was in introduction. This is it as it is right here.
Just keep coming, reading.
Oh yeah.
You come if you want to stay for a few days or whatever.
Word.
Yeah, we got a place where you can
I'm
stay.
ready. We can do it tonight already. I'm serious, cause like I was telling him, brother Derek, even like not even less than probably 30 minutes ago. Like I was telling him, like, I was like, man, you know, just like talking to him. He's on his phone, like, man, Cause I know I have to complete that project. I know spirit. I know I have to do that. That's why I've been like just kind of like trying to block out other things that's trying to deter me from doing it. You know, doing it.
What kind of project is it?
It's
What is
alright. So the
Fun.
project, it's a film, but before that we're doing like like short videos, like 1 minute videos. We're doing 30 of them before we do it. You know, complete the film. So, and
What's the theme?
the theme is light. That's the name. It's light. So yeah, light. So that's the name of it. So it's gonna be interesting, cause it's part of, it's for the whole, like, the Ramadan's coming up for the Muslims, right? Okay, and I don't just want to classify myself just as I'm a spiritual being. So I spent some time in San Francisco. I don't think I told the story, but I spent some time in San Francisco with a Sufi.
You mentioned it.
I just mentioned it. Okay. And that changed that changed my life. Definitely had me look at my like ego more, like things I couldn't see, I was blind to about myself. Then that humbled me to be more, have more gratitude, and have more gratitude for myself and for the journey that I'm on and God.
So we all have a sense, not all of us, but all who are waking up
Yes.
to the spiritual journey, we all have a sense
Mm-hmm.
that we want to go somewhere. And the Vedas actually explain explicitly and concretely what that goal is. So then that gives you something more than just the sense, the general sense that you're different, that you're not material and these things. That's the beginning, and it's important, it's necessary. But, just like if I told you, if you wanted to meet somebody in Houston, and I just said, well, he's in Houston, and if you didn't have an address or, a GPS or something to go there to try to find one person in Houston, hey, not a very good chance you're going to find them. Therefore, the Vedas actually express concretely who is God, what the place that he lives is like, where it is, how to get there. In principle, it's not any different, but the practical, concrete conceptions that allow us, the human mind, to focus on it is very, very different.
Man,
it's different.
You said that word, focus.
Yeah.
That's what I was telling them. Like, here it's like, every time I step my foot up on the ground over here, like, it's like, it's very like, it's like a whole different like piece. Like
It's different.
Yeah. I was like, I need to spend more time over here. And I was telling them, like, even for this project, like, I'm just so focused about it. Like, I'm not even trying to, like, today I usually leave home to like go to Starbucks or like go to Kroger's to use the Wi-Fi or whatever. But like, I didn't do that today. Like, I didn't do that today. I just really stayed. He's like, where am I gonna pick you up from? I was like, the house is better. I had text him, I was like, the house is better, because I don't really.
Tell him come over here, and he can come in also.
I wonder if he's still. Because he was like, if you don't come back, I know what that means. Because yesterday he was trying to look for me, but I had to obey the higher self. The higher self said, come over here. He said, he's back after you pick up his daughter. I'm like, okay, that's cool. That's cool, we'll do that. Because I know the Spirit wants me here to speak to PK more. Then he took me to the temple and showed me some things that, man, I just, my spirit, I was like, man, I haven't felt like this in a minute. I'm like, because I've been in a room where I'm in a room, the door is closed, I'm reading, I'm in the Kabbalah reading. My grandfather's trying to figure out why you're not eating, why you're not coming out. And I had to question myself too. I was like, man, I haven't eaten anything, I'm in tune with this food.
You forget.
This is food too.
Yeah, you forget.
Yeah.
Food for the soul.
And then I
That's
put the book down, then I go out and go get some food. And the food tastes even better than what it is when you're eating so much. So when you're abstaining,
Speaking of food, let's take a little prashadam. All right, thank you. We're with Art, and he's come back, and we're going to talk more. And now we're going to sign off for today. All glories to the Bhagavatam. All glories to the glories of the Lords, and all glories to the devotees of the Lord. Go Premanandi.
Hari Bo.
Hari Hari Bo.